Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ask Me Anything for May 27th, 2021. As always, the Linchpin community has come through, got some great questions, and we'll go ahead and dive right in. The first most upvoted one was from Dan L. And Dan basically asks, what's my biggest source of inspiration when programming workouts? And is there, a secret tester that goes behind and tests workouts and things like that? So, good question. I thought it was going to be a really short answer, and then somehow I wrote an entire page for it. So, let's just see where we go with this. So, biggest source of inspiration when programming. First of all, let's define inspiration, right? Because I think inspiration can have this very Disney movie effect of kapoof, epiphany, and lights shooting out of the head and fireworks and whatnot, where inspiration, and I looked it up this morning, is just basically the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially something created. So it's just the process that helps you create, quite frankly. That's the actual definition of inspiration. Hollywood has taken it in a different direction. So, where I get my inspiration for programming, there's no one singular thing. There's a combination of things that help me create and design the programming for Linchpin. And it is a borderline obsession. I will go ahead and admit that. It's a combination of just life experience in general, from the very early years of my life when I got into working out in general and was immersed in the Arnold Schwarzenegger encyclopedia of bodybuilding and following Lou Ferrigno and doing your classic splits routines in gyms and push-pull days and chest and tries and just that kind of classic isolation, more bodybuilding style segmented kind of training, which I did for years and immersed myself in that. And then after that, when I decided that I wanted to become a SEAL, and then shifted all my training, focus, knowledge, and attention on what would be required to pursue the demands of that goal, from largely calisthenics capacity, endurance and running, swimming, rucksacks, things like that. And I trained, and that was in addition to still doing classic bodybuilding style training. So those two things overlapped for many years. And when I say many years, I mean about 7 years is how long I immersed myself in that world to train to go to BUDS, which is SEAL school. So 7 years of my life dedicated to that pursuit. Then obviously going to BUDS, experiencing what the demands both physically and mentally were of the human body to perform at that level. And BUDS is a very non-academic world. Textbooks don't matter. Physiology classes don't matter. Real world task accomplishments, the muscles needed to accomplish those tasks became very apparent, both in SEAL training, which, obviously I guess I trained appropriately, made it through that. And then my time in the SEALs, in the military, it just continued that education, if you will, from the demands of the job, from, again, long rucksack marches, down man drills, up and down hills, running, swimming, you name it. What did you need to do to perform those real world tasks, right? Non-academia, non-gym tasks. What was required of the human body, and how could you develop the human body to best accomplish those tasks? Now, whether we did or not, train the smartest way is a different conversation, but I learned. There's an important point right there. And then post-time in the military, finding CrossFit, then learning about that whole world, the what's, the whys, the methodology, the fundamentals, and now I've been immersed in that world for a bit over 16 years now, and that was not only just an academic pursuit of diving into the CrossFit journals and trying to learn and research as much as I could and stress test whatever was said to see if it was actually true, both through the internet and through my own experimentation with myself and my buddies in my garage. But then, getting onto seminar staff, teaching 200 seminars around the world, literally around the world, and through that period of time interacting with thousands and thousands of real world people, from athletes to affiliate owners to everything in between, hearing what worked from them, what didn't work, what their pain points were, what their lessons learned, hearing all the real-time questions from the audience, answering those. I mean, all of that just was a constant bombardment of subject matter and figuring out best practices. And then it was, I feel very, fortunate, blessed, and lucky to have gone through all that there. So all of that, and then take into account that just continues on a daily basis with Linchpin, and the data and the feedback and all of the inputs and outputs that happen there. And with as large as our community is, that's just an immense pool of data that just I immerse myself in every single day, and reading the stories, hearing people's inputs, and see, did it really go how I thought it would go, and all that stuff. And if you've got a pool of a couple people, you get some data. If you've got a pool of thousands and thousands of people, you get some knowledge out of that. So all of that I've been through in the past and continue to go through now, that's a long story, but that's the inspiration, quite frankly, for all the workouts and the programming. So it's no one singular thing. It's an amalgamation of all those different aspects, and they've been invaluable, quite frankly. And all of that stuff is always, at all times, swirling around in my head when it comes time to design and create workouts, and it all makes its way in there to stress test something or check the validity of something in one way, shape, or form. And it's irreplaceable. I guess if we are talking about the whole inspiration word, this is the Disney moment, right? I do get inspiration, or maybe ideas is a better way to say it, often while working out, believe it or not. I'll just be in the midst of the workout doing something, feeling my body and the loading, and that will spark an idea of like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if, or what if this was tweaked in a particular way and it was paired with this other thing that I had in my head from a couple weeks ago? Yeah, that'd be a beautiful little relationship. And so that stuff happens. That stuff does happen actually quite frequently. And I might even just in the middle of the workout pause the workout, walk over to the dry erase board in my garage, grab the marker, scratch down whatever that crazy thought was that was in my head for the moment, then go back and keep working out as quick as I can so that I don't lose that thought or whatever it happens to be. I also like just have a running list on my phone and computer, because I will get those ideas will pop in every now and then at the oddest of places. I might be in the produce section of the grocery store, and suddenly I'm like, aha, yeah, this is what we could do with a thruster. And I'll pull out my phone, go to my notes section of my phone, and write that down, or it's gone forever. So probably drives my family crazy, to be honest with you. But here's the deal. Any little singular workout that pops up, or like a beautiful couplet just enters my head and I scratch it down, that's cool, but that couplet might live on that list of future workouts for weeks or months without making an appearance, because yeah, great, it's a cool workout, it's a beautiful workout, but it's a standalone workout. I'm not interested in a really cool standalone workout that doesn't have a symbiotic relationship with the entire cycle of training that we're in, be it the week, the month, whatever it happens to be. That workout, as cool or beautiful as I think it is, will never see the light of day unless it perfectly fits all the requirements that I'm looking for any workout to be programmed on any particular day. And for that to happen, it has to pass the scrutiny of that long, slow process of checking, dissecting, looking backwards as to where we've been, understanding where we need to go, checking out reps and time domains and loadings and what are we doing with the body? Are we hinging at the hip? Are we squatting? Are we pressing overhead? All of that stuff has to get filtered through the process of what we need. And if that beautiful, cool workout that popped in my head just doesn't fit, it would be unprofessional and irresponsible of me to try to shoehorn it into some place that it didn't fit. And so therefore it will just sit on the bench and not make its way onto the playing field until the actual appropriate time that may or may never come, you know? So after that, and just all that all that stuff that I just said there, that scrutinizing that process, it's a very long, slow, tedious, but worthwhile process of planning a day, a week, a month, a year, etc. If you really want to have beautiful, well thought out programming that has a flow, that it's like a symphony, that everything supports everything and then moves forward together, that has to be the priority over any one singular workout. It has to be the whole, if that makes sense to everybody. Yeah. And I think I also have an issue. I think about this stuff constantly. Luckily, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, because if not, I would be in a straitjacket in an insane asylum with a dry erase marker in my mouth, writing workouts on the wall while they try to give me medication, because I can't shut my brain off. This is just, my brain is constantly thinking about these things, sorting through them, and just trying to make it happen. So anyway, hopefully all of you can benefit from my bizarre brain. All right, that was question number one. Oh, and because of all that experience and all the stuff that I just said right there, the overwhelming majority of the time I've got a really good sense of how a workout, a rep scheme, a loading is going to happen, and it plays out every day, quite frankly, how I thought it would. And every now and then, if I do come up with something and I'm like, oh, interesting, I think I've got a really good idea of how that will feel, what the time will be, but I must admit I'm not perfectly certain. Then I'll head out into the garage and, test whatever certain portion, round, run, shuttle, etc. that I need to make sure that what I had in my head is in actuality going to play out in reality. And that certainly occurs every now and then. Okay, good question. The next question was from Eric. Eric, what are your rituals? I'm interested in any time management, task organization, and productivity tips. Whew, good question. Because there's not enough hours of the day, and life is busy, demands are high, work never stops. With work, life, I'm married, I've got 2 children, I've got a third one on the way that's coming here in 5 weeks. Things as if they're not already busy enough. I've got 2 dogs, throw my 2 dogs into the mix there. It is, if you don't have a handle on what you're doing, life is going to steamroll you right over. And it might steamroll you over anyway, but hopefully not for a long period of time. So Eric, for your question, the only rituals that I have, I guess it depends upon how you're defining rituals, but the only rituals that I have is my working out, 5 workout days a week, 2 rest days, and then my reading. 10 pages a day is what I try to do of a non-fiction book, and that is, I crave that. I look forward to it every day with a cup of coffee. It's one of my favorite parts of the day. And it's good for not only my mind, but my soul. And that 10 pages a day serves many purposes. It's not only calming, it's not only peaceful, but it's also educational. Like I'm reading about something nonfiction, be it an event or a human being or an achievement or whatever. So I'm learning about something which I enjoy, so it keeps my brain sharp. It's a stress relief, but there's some like personal development wrapped into there as well, which I really enjoy. Because particularly since it's nonfiction, if I am reading about somebody who achieved something wonderful in history or life or whatever it happens to be, rarely was that achieved through ego, arrogance, and just being a jerk. It's usually achieved through humility, integrity, teamwork, like good virtues and values that it's good to steep yourself in, that it's good to touch every day and remind yourself of how you want to be and how you want to be a human being in this world, to pay it forward and be a positive part of society and other people's lives. And so intertwined in that nonfiction 10 pages every day is it's kind of personal development also, which I really crave, and I would like to consider one of my daily rituals. So that's a big part in there. And then of course, like I said, the fitness. For just making things happen, for time management, task organization, productivity, everything that I have to do, it lives in my phone eventually, right? So, for example, this morning in my calendar for meetings, I have 6:15 a.m. Ask me anything, Linchpin, with a reminder, 30 minutes, and then an hour before that. Any other meetings, calls, deadlines, projects, interviews, whatever it is, it eventually makes its way into the phone so that I can make sure that I'm getting an alert a day before, an hour before, whatever I need, so that the schedule is managed. I have and do have an account with Asana, which is a project management software, which is wonderful. It's probably like $1 billion company, so I guess people like it. And it has utility and value beyond a shadow of a doubt. However, maybe I'm just an old school dinosaur to some degree, but what's funny is I always seem to go back to just a yellow legal pad that I write my tasks on. And those eventually get transferred into my phone, and it's just, I can look at this one thing on my desk and at a glance see everything. It's just very useful and simple and effective, and I guess because it's so effective is why I just keep using it, quite frankly. I write everything down on that legal pad in pencil, whatever task or item that I have to do. I make a little box next to each item, and then if whatever task, if it's in progress, then I put a little circle in the box, and that means that that task is currently in progress. And maybe it's that I shot an email off to somebody and I'm waiting to hear back from them. Well, I know that the ball's in their court, it's in progress, waiting to hear back. If something gets accomplished, I just tick the box off or put an X through it, and that task is done. Next to the boxes on the margin, I will write like a priority, if you will. A1, A2, and A3, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, and C3. And that's the order of importance of those tasks. The A priority tasks should get done before the B's should get done before the C's, and in the A's, well, they're prioritized as a 1, 2, 3 also. And they get, a circle in them. They get a check off if they're done. And I might also next to them draw an arrow, like a right-facing arrow, and that means that task has been pushed forward. So it's a quick note that it's been pushed forward, and I'll write down in the margin or next to it what it's been pushed forward to. So I've got a little system for that, and it's all done in pencil, because that way if A1 shifts to A3, if it's all in pen, I don't have to tear the piece of paper off and write 25 new tasks down on the next sheet of paper. I just erase A1 and A3 and switch those, and boom, easy day, done. And probably once a week I do tear that sheet off and start it fresh again. So on top of that, I would say anything that takes like 5 to 10 minutes, if it's a short task, get it done. Just knock it out. Don't delay it. It's easy sometimes to delay the short tasks since they are short. You're like, I can always get to them. I can always do it later. It's only going to take 5 or 7 minutes. You might find those on your to-do list 2 weeks later because they are quote-unquote short and easy. So Get them done. Get rid of them. So, that being said, I'm also a huge advocate of doing the tough tasks right away. Get them over with early in the day so that you don't stress about them. So maybe you've got 2 of those tasks. They're going to take sub 10 minutes. Knock those 2 quick little tasks out and then tackle the big boy. Tackle that big, miserable task that's looming over you that day that you have some sort of dread about. Do that first. Because the day has a way, as it continues on, of adding things to your to-do list, not of reducing your to-do list. And so if you are just putting off that big task, the next time that you have to think about doing it, your to-do list has probably grown. And so now it's going to cause you more stress. So knock that thing out. I will also say I basically have all notifications shut off on my phone. I don't get notified when Instagram does something. I don't get notified when Facebook does something. Or my phone would never stop. It would never stop distracting me. I would get nothing done. And that would not be an effective or happy way to live. So the only thing that I have notifications for is if somebody calls me or I get a text message. That's it. If I get an email, I don't get a notification. When I choose to open my phone and check my email or check Instagram or check Facebook, then I will see what's going on there, and I will check it when I decide to check it, not when Facebook thinks that I need to check Facebook or my email thinks that I need to check email, and that I would highly recommend that everybody does that, just to live a healthy, more balanced life and if you're trying to do some big task, everyone's got all these notifications on from whatever, Amazon, Target, CNN. The phone's always blowing up. You're always distracted. You're always looking over to what it is. It's going to be really hard to get anything done like that. Shut those notifications off, in my humble opinion anyway. Put the bare minimum notifications that you need on, and then go ahead and, that's how my phone is all the time, but then go ahead and knock that big task out, get it done. I personally, this doesn't work for everybody, but I'm a big fan of getting up 1 to 2 hours before anybody else in my household. I'm never happy when my alarm goes off, but I'm always happy once I get up, get a bit of coffee and start moving, because that 1 to 2 hours of time while the whole family's still asleep, it's the most undistracted, focused time you might have all day long. And so that's a peak productivity time for me personally. Would I prefer to get another hour or 2 of sleep every day? You're darn right that I would. But life and tasks don't care at all. They don't give the backside of a rat as to what I would like. Some stuff just has to get done. And if it's got to get done, it's got to get done. And so the alarm goes off and I get up. Yep, I'm tired every now and then. And that might mean I deadlift a bit less. That might mean I'm a bit slower on Fran. But that's okay. Because all of life is this massive juggling act, and we're all good. As long as I'm getting in my workouts, I'm going to be okay. That being said, if my wife was in here while I was answering this question, she would say another critical part that I didn't mention is that you have to have the discipline also to stop work, to stop the tasks, and to shut it down. Because the chances are you'll never get everything accomplished that you need to in any particular day. There's just a never-ending tsunami of work. And so if you're only going to stop when the work is done, you're never going to stop. And then you will have no family, no life, no health, no nothing. And so having the discipline to shut it down is also critical. And it's really important, and I'm very aware of this with some, an organization like Linchpin, because since we are a global community, everyone is in a different time zone. And so there could be emails and messages in the middle of the night, from Australia or Europe or whatnot. And so it's not just 9 to 5, even though my family functions on that sort of schedule, but the Linchpin community as a global entity does not. And so, it can be really easy to want to dive back into my email at 9 or 10 at night because maybe some things rolled in from Europe. So there can be a slippery slope of losing that work-life balance. So you have to have some discipline, some boundaries, and some parameters, because that's the only way everybody's going to be healthy. And so also learning how to shut down work is a good thing to do. But it's tough. It's a grind, and the balance is a moving target, and it's a slippery slope, and it's a constantly something I'm trying to work on and be better about. Okay, final question, and another one that I thought was going to be short, and it wasn't. This is from Luis, and the question is, Luis, where are you, sir? Here you are, okay. Luis says, for me, the hardest part of training solo is fifth gear, or going till the end of a workout in the pain cave if the workout calls for it. So just any tips or tricks for, pressing the gas pedal a bit more, all the way near the end of the workout. So, yes. I think, though, what you described is not unique to training solo. So let's think about it. So you said the toughest part of training solo is keeping on the gas, near the end of the workout. Well, that makes sense, but that's also the toughest part when you're with other people as well, just because the human body, as the workout goes on, fatigue sets in, you get tired, and so obviously most people have a tougher time at the end of the workout than they did at the beginning of the workout, be it whether you're training solo or with a group. That's just the way that it is. That makes perfect physiological sense, almost regardless of your environment. So, let's see. I would say things that popped into my head were, and this is a constant thing that we talk about at CrossFit Linchpin, right? And I would just say, first of all, hopefully you're talking about going hard, fifth gear till the end of the workout, high intensity, is we know that some people, and I'm not saying that this is you, Luis, but just everybody should sanity check themselves. Make sure you're not trying to do that all the time, right? That high intensity is a relative thing, relative to the individual's physical and psychological tolerances, and high intensity does not mean maximal intensity. So that's something that I would just be aware of. So if every day, every workout, you are trying to exert maximal intensity, that's not going to be sustainable. Different people will be able to sustain that for different periods of time, but eventually you will crash into the wall. And so again, be honest with yourself, and if you are trying to do that, then inevitably you're going to be slowing down, feeling fatigued, not feeling enthusiastic, not feeling motivated. And so that would be the first thing that I would check out. And I would say, for example, if we have 5 training days over the course of the week, as you look at the week, and you can see the week in its entirety as part of Linchpin through the Beyond the Whiteboard app. I've said this before, I try to look at that week and I'll identify 2 days that I think are going to be days that work well for me and are spaced apart to be like my high intensity, I'm really going to try to push it days. 2 other days will probably be moderate intensity, and that gives my body and my mind the necessary modulation of intensity and rest so that when those days come around, I'm ready to depress the gas, because I haven't tried to press the gas every single day on every workout. That's not something which is going to treat you well long term. So that would be something that I would look at initially. I would also say, if it's more of a philosophical question about how to go hard during a workout, then that's a bit personal as well, and you need to, or each athlete needs to identify whether their motivation, their drive, their fire, is that something that you find internally or externally? Internally, is just this self-motivated, you know your why, your reason, whether it's your long-term health, whether you're, playing a sport, whether you're chasing a goal, whether you're working out for the betterment of your family and your kids so that you can have a long, healthy life with them, or are you externally motivated by chasing the person next to you, chasing somebody on the leaderboard, things like that. So a bit of self-reflection as to how you as a human being are motivated or driven might also be helpful, and then identifying that to help you maintain that fifth gear, so to speak, on the days that you so choose, or you have identified that you want to maintain fifth gear there. Now, we'll wrap it up with this. So now, other things that could help you maintain, again, using the terminology that Luis said there, trying to stay in fifth gear longer during the workout. If we go back to like the What is Fitness article and some classic CrossFit methodology, the 10 general physical skills, I would say if I had to, now the human body's one piece, you have to develop all of it, so please don't take what I'm saying in isolation, right? I understand all that. But if you forced me to like pick a couple traits that would be very helpful in addressing Luis's question, I would say it would be cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina. So cardiorespiratory endurance, defined as the ability of the body systems to gather, process, and deliver oxygen. Stamina, the ability of the body systems to process, deliver, and store and utilize energy. Notice how I didn't say strength was one of the ones that popped into my head. So again, no quote sniping. I'm not saying strength is not important. It's mission critical. We are not a conditioning program. We are a strength and conditioning program. Heavy days are essential, and we pour our heart and soul into them. As a matter of fact, we respect heavy days so much that's what our singular focus on those days. But it's an interesting and a curious thing to do, to observe somebody when they get to that point in a workout where the struggle happens. Okay, and not all the time, but the overwhelming majority of the time, if we're talking about a mixed modality workout, has a few elements, right? A weightlifting, a gymnastics, a monostructural component, and you see them start to slow down. The failing, for lack of a better way to say it, or the sticky point, a tremendous amount of the time is a cardiorespiratory endurance failing or deficiency, or a muscular stamina, more so than a strength. Yes, strength fails every now and then, but not as much as the others in classic CrossFit workouts. And you can see the difference. And some people you might feel this on a workout on any particular day. If somebody has, a barbell, they're doing 135 clean and jerks and some burpee box jump overs and some chest to bar pull-ups or whatever it happens to be, and that barbell hits the ground and the athlete is just bent over at the waist, hands on their thighs, they're hyperventilating, that's usually what's preventing them from doing another clean and jerk. We're not talking a 1 rep max clean and jerk, right? If it's a 1 rep max, then yes, you have to wait several minutes for your body to recover the strength to actually lift that 1 rep max deadlift, 1 rep max back squat again. But in a situation like I described, a more moderate loading, classic rep scheme, 21-15-9, mixed modality, you watched the clean and jerk, the last clean and jerk that happened before the athlete bent over, hands on the thighs, hyperventilating, still had good bar speed, came off the ground with some nice hip pop, drove that weight overhead. It didn't look like they just about failed the power clean. That's very unusual. That's not the case. They didn't just like barely press the weight overhead, shaking and struggling, and it was like a 7-second press out and then the barbell hit the ground. That is what a muscular failure would look out. You tried to lock it out and you just couldn't. No. Drove the barbell up to the front rack position, dip drove, bang, got that weight overhead, hit the ground, but then they cannot recover their breath. They're just hyperventilating, bent over, and it's not until they recover their breath they're going to grab that clean and jerk and go again. If it was, and you could play this game, it would be a mean thing to do to somebody. Don't do it. But if you had, if the workout called for a 135 clean and jerk, Well, let's say you set up a bar at 135, and then you set up another bar at 115, and then another bar at 95 pounds, and then another bar at 75 pounds. Well, when the athlete got to that point in the workout that they did that final, that clean and jerk that was like the last one before they needed a rest, and then they're hyperventilating, bent over, and you're like, do another one, do another one. Again, don't do this. This is a hypothetical. As the crazy lunatic coach, you're like, do another one. And they're like, I can't, it's too heavy. They think that it's too heavy. They think that it's a strength failure. It's cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina. And you're like, okay, great, it's too heavy, no problem. Turn around, I got a 115 barbell right there. It's lighter, you should be good to go. They might grab that and do 1 or 2 reps maybe, and then you're going to see the same thing happen. Hands on the hips, hyperventilating. You're like, don't worry, no problem. I got a 95-pound barbell, grab that. It's a cardiorespiratory endurance. Even with a lighter loading, the same thing is going to happen to the athlete. It's because they cannot recover their wind and their breath. And so, improvement in cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina will also greatly aid in you being able to push harder for a longer time domain during workouts. Absolutely mission critical. And luckily, we do that stuff all the time at CrossFit Linchpin, right? Because we do what's effective, not what's popular. We'll go out there for those track days. We just had one the other day with the 550s, the 400 meter repeats, and the 800 meter run. There's a workout that nobody wants to do, but everybody needs to do. And that's why we do that kind of stuff. And that's why we do the intervals. That's why we go long. That's why we manage our rest appropriately. You know, all of this stuff will help you, but I think if I had to identify a couple, cardiorespiratory endurance and stamina would be huge. And on like the track days, such as we had the other day, if you have identified that speed is not so much your issue, but muscular stamina is really where you want to develop, well, how you manage your rests will play a critical role in you developing your stamina. And if you want to dive into what you should do in those days, listen to Linchpin Conversations number 140, because we specifically talk about managing rest during interval training and what that does in your athletic development. Okay, so that's that. We will wrap it up with 3 cool stories from the Linchpin community. Number 1 was from Mike, and Mike did the classic workout that we do every now and then, 5 rounds for time of kettlebell swings and burpees. And he said when he first did this workout, he did it with a 35-pound kettlebell, but now he has advanced to the point that he upgraded to a 53-pound kettlebell, and with the heavier kettlebell, beat his previous time when he used the lighter kettlebell. So that's awesome. Consistency and training pay off. We had a cool weight loss story from Fisal. And Fisal says, glad to be here, glad to be in the Linchpin community. A bit about me. On their weight loss journey, they've done CrossFit over the years, on and off. Started to lose weight in lockdown in June of last year when they were 336 pounds, currently down to 275 based out of the UK. Good on you. That is some serious discipline to drop that weight. And finally, managing intensity, which is so good because we just spoke about managing intensity. And Nick says a 4-minute PR on Annie. They decided that today was going to be their quote-unquote hardest day when they looked at the week. And so kind of just like we said a second ago, look at the week, see what the workouts are, and then you shouldn't expect yourself to just go berserkers every single day. Identify a couple days, you're like, these are the days I'm going to push, these are the days I'm going to hold back a bit so that you can modulate your intensity, and then good things will happen, because ideally you will have the rest energy needed to perform in those days. And I guess the only other part is you can't be afraid to throw that plan out the window, right? So maybe you identify the days that you're going to go hard and be your high intensity days. Well, what happens if the day before that you've got a newborn baby in the house and you don't get any sleep that night? You can't be so locked into the plan that you're too rigid to change it on the fly if that's the intelligent thing to do. So that's kind of wrapped up there as well. So that's it. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks for being fantastic, and I will see you probably later on the Facebook page.